This is John Paul Rai. I'm coming to you from Tokyo, Japan. This here is an article called Why is Masters of the Universe Revelation so divisive among He-Man fans? Well, that's a really easy question to answer. If you're not up on the news, what happens is Kevin Smith says, this is a series about He-Man. He-Man is a cartoon from the 80s. It went along with Star Wars, Transformers, all the stuff that we loved as kids, and they did a little switcheroo. They put Teela, who's He-Man's female friend, as the lead in the TV show. Now, that wouldn't be a problem if they marketed it like that from the beginning. Well, some people probably still wouldn't enjoy that because, after all, it is about He-Man, but the main thing is that Kevin Smith, the director, said it was about He-Man. He said it is not going to be a Teela show. When it came out, the first 6 episodes are Teela in the forefront, and he said it's basically the Teela show. So it was pretty much a big fat old switcheroo and a lie, which I think is the main reason people are upset. So again, if you say, hey, we want to do a Teela show, she's going to be in the forefront, and we're going to go for that from the get-go, well, a little different. But of course, the Mary Sue's got a few things to say, and they kind of get a couple of points here for being correct, but they lose it at the end, like they always do. And of course, they love Amber Heard. If you know Amber Heard, you follow me for Amber Heard, they love her. She's a victim of hardship and smear and bullying, so keep that in mind when I'm reading this paper here. Created by a known friend to nerdkind, director Kevin Smith, Masters of the Universe Revelation was split into 2 parts, with the first 5 episodes being released by Netflix on July 23rd, 2021. It has a star-studded voice cast and excellent animation. Even the writing leans into treating some of the goofier elements of the series with kindness and affection. Since this is a sequel series, you are expected to come into the series knowing roughly the cast of characters and their relationships to one another. Okay, fair enough so far. As someone who was only a general fan of He-Man, it was a lot, and I could instantly see why, for those looking for that character, this would be a blow. If I were going to watch a Sailor Moon series and it wasn't about Usagi, I'd be irritated too, especially since I think the hook of He-Man dying and the supporting characters having to carry on without him is something older fans would have been interested in. So, here's the thing. They make a fair comparison. Like, let's say, in my opinion, mostly girls, like Sailor Moon, little girls, and they grow up and they're now 35, 40, Sailor Moon comes back, and, you know, it's the dude as the sidekick and Sailor Moon's dead. Like, would I really expect a woman to like that? Maybe some people would be like, okay, it's an interesting change, I'll give it a shot. But I think it's fair to say that most people, man or woman, if you're into Sailor Moon and you loved Sailor Moon as a kid, and they bring back Sailor Moon as a TV show without Sailor Moon, is it really difficult to understand why those fans wouldn't like that? Is it really difficult to understand that if you bring something back without the main beloved character, or, even worse, the main beloved character is killed and replaced, that's so hard to understand why someone would be irritated with that and not want to buy it and not like the director? It's not rocket science. The other issue is that this series did not need to be split into 2 parts. While I enjoyed the first 5 episodes, I felt like setup for a larger story that would fill out in a 13-episode anime. I don't think it needed to be torn up, and I think doing that actually made the whole thing feel even more disorientating because there isn't even a real antagonist for the part of the series. For that part of the series. We are mostly just getting the band back together and questing, and anything negative they say about it isn't about the social issues. It's not about He-Man dying. It's, you know, a lot of times about, the plot wasn't so good, or this could have been better. They squeezed in too much into 2 episodes or 3 episodes or something like that. Same thing with The Last Jedi. When the show critics defended it, they were like, well, it had bad pacing, but it was a good movie. They'll never, get to the core of the matter. They'll never get to the heart of the matter, that Luke Skywalker was a hermit, he was terrible, and, Han died in The Force Awakens. They'll never get to that. They'll skip over that and say, that was pretty good, that was different. Same thing here. She enjoyed the first couple of episodes, but it could have been spread out differently. Whatever. Is the hate bombing of review sites overblown and silly? Absolutely, because in the end, Masters of the Universe is a fun show that deeply cares about the mythology of this world. It constantly works to bring pathos to characters named Mossman, Roboto, and Evil Lyn. What we see of He-Man Adam also gives layers to him that make him very much intriguing to me as someone familiar, but not overly invested. We don't want to get overly invested in He-Man in the show that he was the main character on. We want to get invested in the other characters. So, here's the thing. They also always use this, it's just a fun show. Star Wars is just a fun movie in space with space swords. Why are you getting so upset? If it's something they like that they get upset about and the other side says, well, that's just a fun thing. Why are you getting upset? It's really serious. So, they really have no understanding that people, are emotional about certain things. They care so much about hurting feelings with name-calling, with these body image name-calling things or whatever it is. But if it's a feeling someone's had since they're a kid and they have an attachment to something emotionally, well, that doesn't count. That's just fun. Fuck you. Let's just draw graffiti all over something you loved and some people, considered a great thing. All right, see what else I say. As for the arguments of SJWism, because the lead ends up being Teela, sorry, you don't cast Sarah Michelle Gellar to play supporting. Well, why the fuck not? I don't think she's a bad actress. I don't know much about her, but she could play a cameo, support, lead. She could play a fucking ping pong commercial for all I care, or a fucking Hershey's bar commercial. I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. We're there to see He-Man, not Sarah Michelle Gellar. Silly comment. But in all seriousness, Smith is someone who appreciates strong women, but also characters to end up in the background. Because in every one of his movies back from the 90s, he had women pretty much as sex objects. I mean, not all of them, but mostly in his movies, the women revolved around the story about sexuality. Like in Clerks, she was, Dante's girlfriend was about, giving blowjobs in the parking lot. And in Chasing Amy, it was all about the girlfriend's sexuality. And in the movie, what was it called? I think it was like Return of Jay and Silent Bob or something. Jay's girlfriend is this hot model type that blows everyone away in her shorty shorts and shit. But of course now, magically, when Kevin Smith takes a job, when he has to gender swap a role, well, not quite a gender swap, you know what I mean, when he's got to swap genders for the main character, now he understands women. And I think he also had a scene in Mallrats 2 where somebody did sexual acts on a horse, and I don't think it was a man. I could be wrong. There was definitely bestiality in that movie. But my main point is, Kevin Smith is not the man who respects women. But I guess, once again, we don't have any research here, and we just have, diarrhea of the mouth defending what should not be defended. His focus on those who were inspired by He-Man Prince Adam feels like something he would be excited to do. It isn't SJW. That is just Kevin Smith. Well, Kevin Smith wasn't SJW. That's absolutely correct. He was a normal guy. But as time went on, and, the woke era seeped into Hollywood, he went along with it, jumped on the bandwagon, changed himself, and said what he had to say, so he didn't piss off his uppers, who are SJWs, and tried to keep as many fans as possible. I still like his old movies. I guess I always will. They'll always be good no matter what he turns into. He could turn into a gremlin at midnight and, whatever. But I'll always like his old movies. But moving forward, I can't look at him. He cried about The Last Jedi? Okay. I mean, he was like tearing up. He was like weeping like heavily, like really tearing up. It felt very fake. Our manifest was to be fanservice-y, Smith told I09. Fanservice-y. So fanservice-y means taking out a main character that the fans love for one that's a side character that they kind of like. That sounds like the opposite of fan service-y to me. Sounds like a weird swap. We did not have a kind of creative, let's call it freedom, to reinvent the franchise the way that She-Ra did, and did it brilliantly. She-Ra cartoon played to a lot more people than it probably ever would have played to if they just kept it in its original incarnation. But She-Ra, even in its era, wasn't as well known as He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, so there's more room for creativity there, and in fact, that's what they were allowed to do. I didn't know who She-Ra was until recently, so that's true. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have taken the job if they were like, you get to go reinvent He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Smith said, I'm really not that creative. That's pretty honest, I guess. I would not like to be the guy you tap to reinvent something, but if you want to keep going lovingly, true to the franchise, and just growing up the characters a little bit so their conventions are a little bit more adult-orientated, I'm your guy, he clarified. That's right, because he did a lot of adult-orientated things in the past, like bestiality in his movies, which I hate, by the way. So I'm just kind of pointing a finger, like, pretty distasteful choice there. And I certainly don't mean they're all talking about sex. Not at all. Because he's done that, been there. All kind of weird, crazy talks about sex in his other previous movies. There's no sex in the show whatsoever. It's definitely a family-oriented show. The idea going in was we have to be able to show the characters both audiences can enjoy. The audience that grew up watching it, which they miserably failed on, who are now like in their 40s or 50s, and their kids who presumably they're going to watch this show with. Holy shit. If you could have got anything wrong, that's it. Because the dudes in their 40s and 50s, which is me, not my 50s, but my 40s, isn't going to watch this with my kids. Because I just don't think Teela is the character that my boys are going to like so much. Is it because she's a woman? No. It's because I would have rather showed them He-Man. Now, when my boys get old enough, they're going to watch Kill Bill. That's a fantastic fucking movie with a female lead. That's probably the best female lead in an action movie ever. They're going to see Furiosa in Mad Max. They're going to see Trinity in The Matrix. And they're going to see every other female character I've loved growing up. And I'll probably even show them Game of Thrones, which has half women kicking ass. Okay? But not Teela. Because the Masters of the Universe is supposed to be about He-Man. Anyway, you guys, of course, let me know what you think down below. Doing shout-outs, special thanks, things like that. If you don't subscribe here, I'll be pretty sad. But I'll get over it. See you next time.